Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. I'm your host, Declan, because the main character's from Massachusetts, as it turns out. That's not why I'm hosting. We just sort of decided it. But we're here now, and we're here to
She's
discuss.
she's not the main character, bro.
It's like
She's not the main character.
co-protagonist, like minimum.
She's the. I will give you the
Co-protagonist.
protagonist. I
Mm.
will give you that she is the protagonist. She's not the main character.
Okay, yeah, okay, fair enough. In case you're wondering, no, we're not talking about Glass Onion. That's next week. We're talking about The Menu, starring Ray Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy. This film was a bit of a surprise. It hadn't been on my radar, but well, let's talk. Let's get into it. Does anyone? What are you guys thoughts
My thought,
on
Yes,
The Menu?
chef.
how is it not on your menu or on your radar? Because I feel like this is a movie that has been advertised for like 6 months, isn't it? Like they've had
It had
a
a
trailer
crazy
going
marketing scheme, yeah.
for a long time.
Mhm.
Their whole, advertising, every ad break of every TV show on every channel, every ad break on every streaming service.
I
Like the
suppose I
menu
suppose
only in theaters November 18th.
I'll amend my statement. What I meant by it was besides like Ray Fiennes, like I didn't know much about like the history of the I didn't know about like the people involved or anything like that. It just wasn't like it was like, oh, that's that movie coming out, but it wasn't like, oh, it's the film directed by I
Well,
blanking on
to
the
be
director.
fair, it did get sandwiched in between a bunch of like pretty big
Mhm,
ones. Like you have
exactly.
Wakanda Forever, you have Glass Onion getting like its special pre-release in theaters. Um, there's just a lot of stuff coming out at this time. There always is. And it definitely is one of those films that I think capitalized on like a really good marketing strategy of just
Mhm,
starting early and just like basically subliminal messaging and getting it into
mhm,
people's heads of like, hey guys, like this movie exists, go see
mhm.
it in late November. It's like, well, it's June, so um I'm gonna forget about it until October, and then I'm gonna see a trailer again, and I'll be like, okay, I'll go see it.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I think
Uh,
that was part of it, but also they got big names in there.
mhm. Very
Yeah,
much
it
so.
it wasn't announced. Like we didn't have the menu on our plan in January. Like
Mhm.
we didn't start talking about doing this one until maybe even last month, or
Yeah, it wasn't for a while.
Mhm.
September, October, somewhere in there we started talking about maybe doing this one.
I feel like it was definitely like September. It wasn't just like a month ago because I feel like they've been advertising it for a long time. That was my
Yeah.
only
Mhm.
point.
And we had dark comedy, we had mystery thriller, we had horror, we had a little bit of something for everyone in this one, right?
It's a very appropriate to do this one around Banshees of Inisherin because I feel like uh, they're not they're not the same messaging, but same type of film.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very clear
Very
satire.
yeah, very clear satire of
I
different
would
things.
I would call it like a horror comedy, like to an extent. What
I
what do
don't
you
think
got?
yeah, no, I don't think it's horror though. It's not
It's like a
trying to
horror
scare you.
spoof.
Mhm.
Like there's this great moment right as you're sort of teetering between the second and third act of the film when Margot or Erin or whatever you want to call her, Anya Taylor-Joy's character, sneaks into, or I'm sorry, no, before she sneaks into the chef's house, um, when all of the men are running from the culinary staff and trying to escape. I forget which what the actor's name is. Forgive me for that. But the character who's the magazine editor
Mhm.
is crouched hiding in a shed, and right when you think there's going to be
Oh
a jump
yeah.
scare, like there would be in a horror movie, a traditional
Mhm.
horror
Mhm.
movie, you just get there's a special, award for being the last one caught, and it really subverts the horror expectation. There are horrific moments,
Mm.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I like you kind of knew something was gonna happen then, but it just like happened very quickly.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. There were some horrific things, but I think it really played on the idea of a horror movie,
Mm.
and I think it worked for the sort of black comedy nature of the film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's it's a it takes a lot of it takes a lot of shots at like many different things, but the main thing undoubtedly is like to an extent like people's relationship with food and like the presentation of food and like how well and like the nature of like I suppose like the presenter kind of there's a lot going on in
Yeah,
this
I
script, I
think
feel.
what comes from that is Nicholas Holt's character. He's very much of the phone eats first type of person. We've all met someone who will take a picture of their food before they eat it when they go to a restaurant. And with his obsession with Chef Julian Slowick, clearly apparent well before the beginning of the film, he wants to, capture the experience in photos. And of course, as the evening progresses, he's sort of driven into, oh God, is my personality sort of causing Chef not to like me?
Mm.
And so he is very much, I would say, the most blatantly satirical character. You know exactly what the commentary is when we see Tyler sort of descend through the film. So yeah, I think, Declan, what you were saying is very, very clear, but especially through that character.
I will just say, like, one of my favorite jokes had to be when they presented Tyler's dish exactly the same as all the other dishes, but they title it like
Tyler's
Tyler's
bullshit.
made up bullshit or something like that, and like that was, I would say, the moment I laughed the hardest at, and there were many moments that I genuinely laughed at. Like the film is quite funny despite it's a dark comedy for sure, but it can be funny at points, partially because you're not fully expecting it to, given how it is a bad situation that everyone's
Well,
involved
I
in.
think it's a ridiculous film in that like you can sort of laugh at, I think, probably any moment because most of the people there are not, they don't feel like real people. The only person that feels semi-real is Margot slash Aaron.
Mhm.
But even she feels a little, satirical. So I feel like most
You
of the
telling me that
film,
John Leguizamo felt satirical to you?
he's definitely not the worst. The worst one is probably the
the
cop, yeah, the foodie couple. I
yeah, the
couldn't tell if
critic.
they were married or if they were just going there because they were.
He
He was
was
a
her
food critic.
editor, so they had a close relationship,
Okay,
but they were the most like absurd, I would say, of all the
they were
characters.
absolutely the
Like
most
I'm pretty
ridiculous.
sure Anton Ego from Ratatouille was a more subtle parody of critics than the two of them were. Yeah, if we're
They
being
were pretty bad.
like it was funny. It got the point across, but it was like almost like just absurd. It's like, oh man, it's like he like how she's constantly like analyzing like the food put before them. That was, I would say, it never became
Well,
overbearing, but
I
it
think it makes sense in that, and I think they made sense in like one line, which was, I can't remember which one of them said it, but it was like, oh, I think he invited us just for this is for our entertainment. Like,
It
everyone's
was
fucking,
Lillian. It
this
was
is
her
for
who
yeah,
said
us.
that.
everyone's acting. It's like these people are so satirical, but actually they're very realistic, I'm sure, in
Mm,
that world.
mhm.
So I think the movie was great with how loose it played with how serious everyone needed to be. You know, it's a ridiculous concept, and to the people can be a little ridiculous, while still maintaining like your same message. So I very much enjoyed that part of it. Like, I think it would be strange if people acted realistically in this sort of concept film. That would be really off-putting, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting you bring up the word concept though, Ben, too, because like the whole point of the actual menu that is laid out as we move through the film is conceptual food. And yet the film still maintains it avoids being pretentious in, you know, ways that aren't trying to like develop the actual menu itself. And I thought that was great. Like, it was a nice balance of, we're going to show you that there are people like Tyler, there are people like Lillian Bloom who fucking suck when talking about food. Like, they're really annoying when they talk about food. And yet there's like other people like the finance bros, that, you know, like Tyler said, probably don't know that much, but like it doesn't matter because it's just good food. Or even the old married couple that had been there 11 times, like they're just there to enjoy the food, and yet they all have these issues that have nothing to do with the, you know, the delicateness of the food or how they prepare it or how meticulous it is. It has everything to do with who they are as people, and it's not really about the food.
I think
what comes out of that is a sort of similarity to, and when Chef Slowick has his, you know, final monologue going at it with Margot, or Aaron at the end of the, can we just call her Margot? Because that's her character for most of the film.
Yeah.
When he's talking to Margot at the end of the film, we sort of understand why everyone's there, and we've had hints throughout the film that she wasn't supposed to be there, and of course that's because Tyler had another date. She broke up with him. He hired Aaron knowing that she was going to die that night. And I said Aaron again. God damn it.
Margot.
So when Chef Slowick is talking to Margot, you sort of get a Murder on the Orient Express type deal where you learn that everyone was there by design. And, you know, the chef sort of curated, to use a food and art world term, the menu of guests that he was going to have there that night. And I think that, you know, grouping of people, as Max was just putting it, is entirely due to who they are in their relation to food, and not necessarily who they are as people, but what food and what the chef means to them individually.
I have to say that while this is a film about food, I can't remember which of you said it, but this really isn't a film about food.
I said that.
They gel.
They gel. They gel. I mean, the interesting thing about this is it really is a concept film. I did that intentionally in that, like, it's a restaurant, it's about food, but really it's much more than that. It's much more about, like, what did they say? It was $12.50 a head. So just for two people, $2,500. Even if the finance bros are just enjoying the food per se, you can get food. You could get a $10 burger, right? They are not enjoying the food enough for that price point. They're essentially wasting food. And they're essentially wasting money. And everyone's worse off for it. And I think it's much more of a case of, this is a concept on society. You know, obviously this is a class warfare sort of thing, you know, the workers versus the elite. But at the same time, everyone's wrong here. Like, it's class warfare, but it's just like, oh, it was the French Revolution, the Red Terror. Is that
Hey, you mean
correct?
the Reign of Terror? Are you talking
The
about?
reign, the Reign of Terror. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. No, that's the Red Scare with communism.
Yeah.
Reign
Yeah.
of Terror. There you go. So the Reign of Terror is, the elite are getting beheaded in the streets. The streets rain with red with blood because of that,
Mhm.
which is why I always get the red in there. But the idea is sort of the same, which is everyone is messed up in this. The elite obviously are not paying enough attention to the poor, to their works. They're not paying attention enough to like the price tag of what they're paying for. But at the same time, the revolution and the rebellion, the people leading it, are absolutely insane as well, in that they are so disgruntled that they're willing to kill everyone,
Yeah.
including Margot. And Margot is that quintessential bystander. She's not really meant to be there. She's not part of either class. And that's why he asks her to choose, because she's not meant to be there. He has to make her choose to make it seem right, to make it seem more justified.
Over the
But at
course
the
of
end
the
of the day, it's still messed up. Like
over
that's
the
why he lets her leave.
over the course of the film, though, she is, and I agree with what you say, Ben. She is dragged into the conflict. So where she starts as sort of, the audience's eyes and ears in the room, she gets pulled into the madness. She kills Elsa in the chef's cabin. That was probably
Well,
That was
it was probably
self-defense.
yeah,
predictable.
that
We
is
had to
more
see the end.
self-defense.
It was self-defense, sure, but it was
Well,
probably
it's part of that us
the
versus
end.
them mentality, which is like she is loyal to the chef, and even though they are against the elites, they're still loyal to their chef, and they are willing to do anything for their ideals. That's the danger.
Yeah.
I'm
And
just
so
saying,
even though she's a bystander,
I've been
they're willing to kill her.
I gotta say, I do appreciate the film, like, it's clever in its satire in that, like, many of the grievances that the chef has with these people, with the elites,
Yes,
some
chef.
of them are valid. So, well, no, honestly, some of them are like okay, some of them aren't like great. Like killing a man because you didn't like his movie is probably not actually that great of a thing to do. And
But
so
that's not why he killed him, though.
I don't know, Declan. That's why you would kill Jeremy Renner for the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye.
what are you talking about? I only hated the first episode of Hawkeye.
Apologies.
Yeah.
He killed him because he saw that this is a guy that has talent, right? But is wasting potential. And that, you've been given this opportunity to create something beautiful like him as a chef. So, but
Yeah,
that
as
opportunity
he
is
says, he
going
wasn't the
away.
writer or director. He was merely the actor. I mean, yes, he is. Yes,
He's a
he is.
talented actor. I mean, they talk about it. He's a talented actor,
But he's
but
phoning it
he
in. That's what they're
reduces
saying.
himself to the quality of a shitty film.
Yeah.
But Max,
like-
I think that's sort of part of it, which is that's a further point to prove how bad of a person the chef is and how bad of the side that is as well.
Oh yeah, I
Which is
never said
that-
the chef was a good guy. I was just
Oh, no,
disagreeing
no,
with
I'm
I was
not
just
trying to-
disagreeing with Declan.
No, that's fair. It's a good point. And now that you said that, Declan, you're wrong.
We're missing that. We haven't had one of those in the last
Literally all I do here, I say correct things.
No, but
attacks me. No.
at the same point, what you said, Max, which is like these people are being unrealistic. The chef is upset because people are holding him to these standards and deconstructing his meals, like what all of this means, what this means, taking the fun out of it, and yet the actor, which is essentially all he is, he's a prototype for any actor. He's doing a phone-in film, and this guy is upset at it. But essentially, he's become the customer that he hates. Which is that guy that just can't even enjoy a $10 burger. He wants something deeper and deeper and deeper. And at the end of the day, part of it is entertainment. You've taken the fun out of everything. It doesn't have to be that deep for film. Which is, again, ironic given the film that it's coming from, but nonetheless, it does tread that fine line between like what you're criticizing versus what you are. And I think this film does a good job of pulling out both of those points and criticizing fairly for things that are unfair criticisms. Like, I mean, how can you criticize an actor for... You could criticize an actor for phoning it in, but then you cannot criticize, I guess, everyone else for wanting something more from their food, from your art,
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the John Leguizamo character, and I forget the character's name that he was having dinner with, they kind of had
Personal assistant.
a personal assistant, but they kind of, the two of them had like the most flimsy reasons for him wanting to kill them. Like
Mhm.
it was
And
an actor
they are
phoning
the
it in,
fellow
and then it was like,
artists.
and it was
And
oh, you didn't? Do you have
someone who
student
went to
loans from?
Brown
Do you have
without-
student
without
loans from
student
Brown?
Yeah, do you
No,
have
dead.
student loans?
That was another just like
No. All right, then you will die.
No, you're dying. Also, we talked a lot about the themes, but we do gotta like talk about. Let's talk about Ray Fiennes' performance. I think you could imagine a much worse version of this, where it's just like some bizarre, exaggerated Gordon Ramsay parody or something like that. But I feel like Ray Fiennes is a fantastic actor, so that like is part of it. But I feel like he like, would it be fair to say he raises it to another level, the film?
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef. I also want to point out that I go to a tasting menu, every now and then. It's a great place. It's called Inferno Pizzeria. The head chef there,
High class Ben.
he I don't want to say he looks like Ray Fiennes. When he cooks, he definitely has that like very serious manner, never smiles, he's just making pizza, making his tasting menus. And now I'm fucking afraid to go back there.
Is it on a remote island?
Ben, how many times have you been there? Name one thing you had the last time you went.
Oh, I can name that. He does burrata every time.
Did you destroy anyone's livelihoods when you went at all?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You might be okay then.
Maybe.
Has the proprietor ever dropped the main investor into the water wearing angel wings?
I think the main investor is the chef, so I think
Good.
it could be okay.
All right. Well,
actually, it's funny.
Everyone in the restaurant.
Funny enough, this chef moved out here. I live out not too far from civilization, but like 15 minutes away from it.
Good way of putting it.
That's not far at all.
Talking about like the middle of nowhere. My guy, you live in a suburb.
It's actually really fun.
But he moved from the Oval Room to this pizzeria out, not in the main part. Oval Room is out in DC. No one but Max would probably know even close to what it is. But it's a very good restaurant. He was the executive chef there, but he moved out here because he lives out here. And he got to do his own concepts, do his own stuff. So
wow, and actually there are interesting similarities there between
it's sort of a maybe if this head chef at Hawthorne didn't go insane, he could have just left and made a pizzeria somewhere.
It's like I feel like it's...
Is it actual pizza or is it deconstructed pizza?
No, it's Neapolitan pizza. Technically, it's not traditional. He does his own sort of style of dough and stuff, but it's essentially Neapolitan pizza.
And I just want to put on the record that the best pizza in the world comes from New Haven, Connecticut.
Wow, spoken like someone who lives in Connecticut. It's like,
I mean, that is a
fact. No. it's
George, we have
it's
Pete's
also
New
a
Haven and
unifying
DC
thing
now.
of all people from
Yeah, we
Connecticut.
do.
Well, I guess
Like,
when we're back there in January, teasing future episodes, we're gonna have to go.
Mm,
It's pretty good.
It's really
But
expensive.
you should try Inferno because it's about half the price.
nice.
And it's better pizza.
Is it? Yeah, but is it? So you're
Better
saying it's a
ingredients,
little
Papa
less
John's.
Papa John's.
than $1,000 a plate, you know?
The reckoning is coming.
He charges
Specifically, Mission Impossible:
$100.
Dead Reckoning Part 1.
I'm hosting that episode, by the way.
Yes, you
We've
are.
already announced that.
You're-
Put it
So-
on the calendars, folks.
Before
Get
we get off
excited.
the rails, before we get off the rails too much, I want to
Yeah,
answer Declan's question
Mhm.
about Ralph
Sure.
Fiennes.
Yeah.
It's not an exaggeration to say that he elevates the film. You know, I think just fully coming full circle with your question here, he creates this character in such a way that is, you know, simultaneously off-putting but also incredibly engaging as an audience member.
Mhm.
Like, you're scared of him, but you can't get enough of him.
Mhm.
And I think that's what makes a good and a really bad example of something like that is in the film License to Wed. It's 2007. I forget the director, but it stars John Krasinski, Mandy Moore, and Robin Williams. And Robin Williams plays, I think, a priest. I haven't seen the movie in like 4 years, and I've only seen it once. But it's supposed to be a comedy. I think Robin Williams' character in that would work better as sort of like a psychological thriller villain.
Mhm.
But that's an example of someone, first of all, great talent. Robin Williams is one of my favorite performers of all time. Someone cast into a role where, you know, they might not be the protagonist of the story. They might, in fact, be the antagonist of the story, as Ralph Fiennes was here. And yet they're the most engaging, most, you know, deliberate in action and dialogue, the most hang on your edge of the seat at the you know, brink of every word, every action. That character. And I think what Ralph Fiennes does with Chef Julian Slowik is not only provide a great commentary on the nature of celebrity chefs and phone eats first culture, but he creates a character that would work across the genre of dark comedy horror. And I think his performance, he's had better ones. He's had plenty of, you know, great performances in his career. This has got to be up there because he takes this character to a place where not a lot of other actors could.
Ken Guapas.
Say again.
That's the director for License to Wed.
Ben, you haven't been our researcher on the pod for a while, so I'm glad you got back to that.
Also,
While I was monologuing, you did the hard
Just
work.
looked it up.
Also, fun fact: when this podcast goes live, that will actually be the first time that License to Wed has been mentioned on the internet in the past 5 years. So that'll be really exciting. You know, real achievement.
Really exciting for Ken Guapas. What did he do recently?
What has he done recently?
He did the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants before License to Wed. Big movie. And then he's just Not That Into You after License to Wed.
There you go. That's
the holy trinity.
This is
And
what people wonder
doesn't seem
when
like
they came to our discussion of the menu. You know,
oh shit, he's doing Sisterhood Everlasting. I think that's the show about the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
The show. Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, really?
Declan's laughing in surprised shock, but he's definitely gonna watch everything.
He's the only one that's watched the original movie.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm gonna hop on and do my research right now. I'm gonna check what Declan's Letterboxd score is of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I already
Because
know
it's
it's a
gotta be
5.
one
At
there.
least a 4 out of 5. At least.
Listen, it's really annoying me that that's statistically incredibly accurate, because like
4.5 out of 5. I'm just kidding. He hasn't watched it.
It's on his watch list.
Yeah,
though.
but Declan was agreeing with it, so you could probably put that down as true.
It's like it's
Yeah, that was a W right there. We got him, boys.
we're declaring that a W on it's like
Osama bin Laden dying?
much like
Declan being revealed as watching Sisterhood of the Traveling.
much like, would you consider it a win what ultimately happened? Did Chef Slowik
Chef.
prove his point by burning everyone to death?
Did he what?
Everyone at the restaurant except for Margot.
Did-
What do you guys?
Did he win?
Yeah. Did he win? Did he win?
At the end of the day, I think
won earlier.
everyone lost.
No, he lost the moment Margot made him cook a cheeseburger.
I think that was a victory for him.
No, I don't think that was a win.
Well, it's a victory for him emotionally. I think ideologically, that's a weakness.
I'm going ideologically.
Ideologically, I think that's definitely a big L for him.
It's a moment of emotional catharsis.
That's the whole thing. Is ideology does not fit. His ideology is born out of a lack of emotion. When he has the emotion, his ideology breaks down. I think it's
right.
I agree.
It's showing how miserable people can be so awful. Like take the fun out of everything. And because they're feeling terrible, make everyone else feel terrible is their main goal. Which is essentially all the chef's plan is like, just make people feel as awful as he does. Which is not it's class warfare to a certain extent, but it's to show how class warfare can really fail, which is just people being vendetta driven and vengeance seeking, like drones. I mean, they're not really thinking about what it's accomplishing. It's just fulfilling emotionally.
And arguably
it's to make you feel something. Because you've been drained of everything else.
So it's an emotional victory to have to cook the cheeseburger.
Yeah, and that's why he loves it. It's like going back to his childhood, which is like the photo that he sees was of him when he's
that's an
smiling.
ideological L.
When she breaks into
yeah.
I take an emotional win over an ideological L.
But the ideology is built out of his misery.
To call it an emotional win, you have to be somewhat rooting for him, though.
In a sense, I might have been.
I mean,
and that's fine.
I'm not rooting for him. I'm just saying from his character's perception, that's definitely an emotional win. He feels something for the first time, like actually feels something.
I mean, think about
vengeance is one thing, but he feels compelled to make something good for someone. He's not just being fed like praise because he's deconstructing some random food dish.
Her presence is one
for a simple order.
I'm going to reference the greatest food film ever made, and Declan did this earlier.
Ratatouille.
When Anton Ego of Ratatouille tastes the ratatouille like it tasted in his childhood, that's an emotional win for him over his ideology of, I don't like food, I love it, and if I don't, I don't swallow.
I'm going to
you're rooting for him to be a better character, a better person in the film, and that's what I felt for the chef when he had to
right. But also, Anton
I feel
Ego
like I
wasn't
need to separate that.
People.
True.
I need to separate that because
the chef was shaped like a coffin.
Both of these people, like everyone represents a greater scheme than just like their own self. I feel like the emotional side is that chef that has been spurned by the industry and has rediscovered that like love of cooking for someone. So that's what I mean by an emotional win. Like, I'm not saying you have to root for him. I'm saying his ideology, like focus, is broken by his emotions coming out because someone has challenged him to do something that he hasn't done in so long. And that something is the same thing that inspired him to dedicate his life to it.
So circling back to Declan's question, when he does succeed in his initial plan for the night at the end of the film, that's a hollow victory, but a victory nonetheless.
I wouldn't say it's a victory. I think it's just a result. I mean,
so it's like when the U.S. had a draw with England in soccer.
I didn't realize we had Chip on the podcast.
No, because we're talking about like ideological victories, emotional victories, actual victories.
I mean, I would say the interesting thing
like
is Margot walking out is the actual victory, which is that is perseverance through all of the hardship. That's showing you can walk through it. And that the people who are upset, at least in this case, the people that are upset in the kitchen could have always walked out. And that's what Margot is showing them, which is they are upset at the same people that they have essentially enabled by working for them in this way. They have created their own demons, same as the people that they are criticizing have created their own demons. I mean, it's this parasitic like relationship that nobody is winning, at least emotionally. But you create these ideologies out of this animosity towards each other, which it's not logical, and it doesn't make much sense, which is what's sort of pointed out by Margot being the random person that's sort of in there just viewing everything and seeing how batshit crazy literally everyone is here. It makes you feel better, which is all they're searching for, you know. Yeah. An artist is fueled by their emotions and their sense to make people feel something and satisfy them in some way. And in some ways, he is satisfying himself and also his kitchen, who kind of want the same thing. I mean, they're just fueled by each other's hatred.
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, we hear it wasn't his idea for everyone to die.
Yeah, it's just a destructive feeling based on people sucking the life out of the joy of what they once had.
Maybe the real menu were the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
Beautiful, man. You should write that down.
That's why the simplicity of Margot's request is sort of, I think, the ultimate result of the film, which is it surprises him, it challenges him, even though it's just a simple request, and it makes him feel joy again because it's something that he could ultimately give. I mean,
there's so only many so much connections to Ratatouille here. Oh my god. Tell me I'm wrong, Ben.
In a sense, it is a similar idea. It's more just Ratatouille is less ideological and conceptual than
also
this
a little less violent, like a little
less violent, less class warfare. You know, that's more just a grouch, like Mr. Grinch rediscovering what it is to enjoy something.
But they are very similar. Like
they do have that. Yeah, they do have the similar vein of.
But instead, with Ratatouille, it's more of like who can cook, not who can consume what is cooked, which is what we get in the menu. And I think that's like the main differentiator here.
Oh, the menu had to change it, otherwise it looks like they copied Ratatouille.
I mean, or even Chef with the damn molten lava cake.
That's true.
It's molten.
That is a great movie. We should, as much as I want to do what we planned for the end of the episode, and I'm going to let Declan do that because he's hosting.
Mhm.
We honestly could have done like movies about food rankings.
That would have been good. That would have been good as well.
Chef would have been on my list.
Yeah,
Chef
yeah.
would have been on mine
Chef
too.
is a good one.
But instead of doing food film movies about food ranking, we're instead just keeping it real simple. I think in honor of the guy who really helped take the menu to the next level, we're talking about our favorite Ralph Fiennes performances.
Favorite Ralph Fiennes foods.
Like the foods that make us think about Ralph Fiennes when we eat them.
I don't know. I thought the leeks and the scallions and the lamb and the butter. Don't forget it was all in butter. I thought
Do you
Tyler's
think the chef would have killed me first because I'm a pescatarian?
Oh my gosh.
I don't think you would have been allowed to show up. You would have
That's
been thrown
true.
off the
That's
boat.
probably is true.
Thank God.
Like
It
it
would've
probably
spared
they
me.
probably tell you that it's non.
The menu's not working for me.
Yeah. but no. Who wants to go first on there?
I have to be honest, though, just like last thoughts here.
Okay.
When I go to Inferno Pizzeria, it's $100 a head. It's very good food. He allows
Bullshit.
substitutions for $100, okay? And I'm supposed to believe that this guy at the Hawthorne for $12.50 can't do substitutions.
You're not allowed to send it back.
There might
Otherwise, he's just gonna kill you.
there might be
Disrespectful.
some problems in the culture
yeah.
at Hawthorne. Like I don't know. Maybe there's some problems at Hawthorne.
Also,
It would kill me, but
one quick final thought before rankings.
Hmm.
A lot of people thought this was going to be about cannibalism. It's not.
Oh yeah. You could.
wait, people thought this was going to be about
Yeah,
cannibalism?
everyone I talked to
What?
thought that this was going to be. The reason why the restaurant's so, messed up is that there are people.
No. I figured out it was a
And it
dark
was so much
comedy
better for
because
not doing
the
that.
Wikipedia
Oh, yeah.
said it was a dark comedy.
Mhm.
So you didn't figure it out. You read it.
I figured that out. It's called research. Maybe you should.
I figured it out by looking up the answer on Wikipedia.
It's something you wouldn't understand. I know.
Yeah.
Chief researcher.
Oh, yeah. Well, chief researcher Ben, please, what are your favorite Ralph Fiennes?
My favorite. So we're doing top 3, right?
Top
Yeah.
3.
Top 5.
Okay. Top 5.
Never 5.
I could do
Okay.
top 5. Let's do top 3.
No.
We're
No,
doing top 3.
I don't
only
have
did
enough.
3. So.
Like I have 3 that are certain, but then the 4 and 5 would be a little harder to come by. Number 3. Let's do In Bruges. That's a fun one. He's got some great lines in that movie. It's a dark comedy as well. It's kind of hilarious if you can laugh at death. But
Second time in 4 episodes you've brought up that movie.
well, I mean, the last one was Banshees of Inisherin. It's the same director, so it's not like it's that weird.
Yeah.
I have a reason, or it's not a random.
I'm just messing with you, man. Come on.
Okay, but
Ben shook because we're giving him shit on the
I'm
pod.
not used to this.
No, it's supposed to be Declan.
Declan is having an
I thought we
existential
agreed on,
crisis because he's
shit on
like,
Declan.
what is happening?
All right, number 2. I probably have to go with. What was? Oh, right, Schindler's List. He's not really like a great guy.
I think there are
But it's a great performance.
I know this is controversial. I think his character is a bad person.
Really?
Yeah,
think it's a hot
I'm
take.
gonna
The
go
way
there.
you preface that, I really, like, for a second thought we were gonna have an issue.
Did I seriously sound
As a Jew, I feel like his character is neat, so good.
Anyway,
But yeah, it's a great performance. I mean, terrible dude, great performance.
Number
Number one, I'll go with. You're gonna love this, Declan. The English Patient. Declan loves history, and so does what is his name? Count Laszlo Holmes? I don't know. What was his name? I can't
think
remember his
that's
name.
right.
I've not actually seen the English Patient, so I can't.
Really? You haven't seen that?
No. I need to.
Oh my god. Yeah, you
Learning
should
things
watch
about
that.
Declan.
Well, because you love
Jesus.
history, right?
Yeah,
And the
no,
guy
no.
keeps talking about history. He's like, hey, I've got this book by Herodotus. That's about 30 minutes of his lines are just about Herodotus and history.
Oh my gosh! Wow, I should see it.
Unironically, though, it is a great performance by him.
Mhm.
You get to see him before he gets horrifically burned, and then after, and he doesn't turn into Two-Face. So
Two-Face.
Moral of the story: you don't have to do that if you get horrifically burned.
I guess, to be fair, his whole face got burned, right?
True.
And with Two-Face, it was only half his face.
Scary face.
Two-Face
Scary
is in
Face.
Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Phantom of the Opera character. Yeah. After all that, I'm going to go with no, sorry. Does anyone
Wait,
else
do I choose next?
Yeah, Ben, you choose.
Ben choose.
Max, you go.
Aw, thanks, Ben. Number 3, I honestly haven't really seen that many of Ralph Fiennes movies that aren't Harry Potter. But
Say Voldemort, I dare you.
I'm not gonna say Voldemort. I'm gonna go. It's hard because he doesn't have that much in there. But I'm gonna go with Spectre. I think he has a really interesting sort of expanded role in Spectre. It's not like the best movie, but I actually liked his entry. I liked his performance as M. Sort of this guy that's figuring it out after the events of Skyfall. And finding his way in what is essentially a new world order of like new technologies and opposite Andrew Scott, he's fantastic.
Now we know what C stands for.
Yeah, was it M versus Dr. Mahogany?
Nice. Number 2, I'm gonna go with The English Patient for the same reasons that Ben laid out, and then number 1 is Schindler's List. So not too different from Ben's, but threw in a wrench for number 3. I'm gonna go with George next, please.
I'm gonna say 3 films that haven't been named yet.
Cool, thank you.
I haven't seen Schindler's List.
Really?
I think we knew that.
Yeah, I know. It's high on my watch list. I'll watch it by the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
Scout's honor, I promise. If I wasn't a scout.
Hey.
Let me just look at.
Is it because you're anti-Semitic or?
Hold up,
George, why? Like you haven't seen? Do you have a problem with it?
I mean, most people that haven't seen it are anti-Semitic. That's just.
I'm Jewish.
Did George agree with Kanye West? Discuss in the comment.
Okay.
George has actually watched
sorry,
Hebrews to. I don't think I'm allowed to say the next word on the podcast.
I don't think you can say any more words for the rest of the episode.
George, as you were before
right.
we
if we're talking just his performances and not his films, because Max said Spectre, and that's not anyone's favorite film.
No, it is.
As much as I would love to put like Lord Voldemort or Gareth Mallory, those are great performances by him.
Oh, that was his name. Sorry, I was trying to figure out who Gareth Mallory was.
I'm sorry. God, Ben.
They probably use his name like twice in the film.
All right.
I mean, it's said in Skyfall more than it's said in any of the other films. Yeah, like that. His name is Gareth Mallory in Skyfall.
Yeah, but then he's M when M dies.
Number
That's true.
3, I'm gonna say Chef Julian Slowik in The Menu.
Nice.
It's a good
I
pick.
loved his performance in this movie, and I think it's top 3 in his career.
Mhm.
Yes, chef. We love you too, chef.
There are moments when I was contemplating doing that, but I worried it just
Well, he
wouldn't
gave you
land.
the name chef in the you know Zoom windows. Number
It's
two.
true.
eh, Number two, I'm gonna say, just because I loved his performance in this movie, Lawrence Lawrence, Hail Caesar.
That's
Oh,
great.
oh,
That's a great performance.
okay.
I
He's
know
just
George's number
so
one.
bonkers in that movie as a director.
That's
Do
true.
none of you like Wes Anderson?
I know what George is saying next.
Okay.
And my
I
number
beg.
one, Ben, thanks for spoiling it, Monsieur Gustave H., The Grand Budapest Hotel.
You son of a bitch.
I knew it.
That's his best performance, and you can't
Mhm.
convince me otherwise. Declan, let's take us
I
home.
yeah.
Oh man,
Sorry, George.
man, do none of you like this one thing and then immediately says that one thing?
Ben's having
Well,
some kind of night.
the only reason that I mentioned it was because it's a great performance, but I don't like Wes Anderson, so I wasn't going to include it.
Get the fuck out of here.
Anyway,
I don't
so
know. Fantastic Mr. Fox was pretty good.
No one's including David Cronenberg, so
anyway, so for my third pick, I'm gonna go with a little out of the box one, but actually one a fantastic performance of his, the Prince of Egypt as Ramesses. He's I mean, that entire film was a masterpiece, and he's an important component of that. You
I mean,
know,
it's a good one, but it's just a voice performance.
true, yeah. That's why he's only my number three. You know, and all
Okay,
that.
all right.
I would say, yeah, it's obviously not the only component to the performance in it. Number two, I'm I'm kind of between like two films kind of for it. I do think his performance as Lord Voldemort is real good. You know, I think that does deserve some mention here. But screw it. I'm going to have as my number two his performance as Gaius Marcius Coriolanus, which he also directed. You know, it's a great film, great Shakespearean
I
performance.
forgot you had to mention that. Yeah.
do
The
not
fine print.
Coriolanus. No, anyway, yeah, that's my number two. He does a great job there, and obviously he's pulling double duties, and I think he does a great job. Great adaptation of the play, you know. And my number one is going to be because it's one of his best performances and part of a film that I love, Monsieur Gustave Grave in
Sorry,
the
what did you
Grand
say his character's name was?
Gustav.
Gustav H. I'm
Gustav
forbidding you
Fring.
from listing that. Pick another film.
Well,
Anyway, the Grand Budapest Hotel, great, a fantastic film, extremely well crafted with deep themes, and his performance is in it. It's quite layered, especially when you rewatch the film. There's a lot going on there, and yeah, I think superb lead role in, well, one of the leads in a superb film. Yeah, Grand Budapest Hotel. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, those.
I stand corrected. That was my bad.
anyway, so those are our thoughts on the menu. It's currently in theaters right now. I think it's pretty clear we all recommend it.
It's
Mhm.
great dark comedy.
Yeah,
Fun satire.
no, very much worth seeing.
Highly recommend it. You
Film.
can actually
I had
see
a
it in
private
theaters
showing.
as opposed to
alone.
Glass Onion.
Mhm. Which tune in next week. Maybe you'll be able to see it in theaters after Netflix gets their shit together. Maybe not, but
Yeah,
nonetheless.
somebody asked about extending it in theaters, and they said,
Hey,
Fuck
Netflix
you.
is doing its best,
Mhm.
considering it bought what could have saved movie theaters.
they're doing their best to ruin cinema. I get it.
Mhm.
I understand.
Still, if for all those wondering what the hell we're talking about, tune in next week for our discussion of Glass Onion. Glass Onion. That'll be great, and it's great that we talked about the menu beforehand, so we can talk about it alongside Glass Onion. But stay
Yeah,
tuned.
we can talk about big people with money ruining art.
Till Brude.
Mm-hmm. Till then, this has been the
Et tu, Bruto, George.
This has been the Unqualified Film Bros podcast, which that title has never been more apt than this time right now. But till next time, have a good night, y'all.